Okay. God damn, my audio wasn't working. Can you hear me now? Hey, Daniel. Hey, Adela. Thank you for letting me know about that, Adela, darling. Can you hear me now? I hope so. Let me know in the chat. Because it looks like, according to my screen, that my audio is now working. But, anyway, so here's what I wanted to start off with. So it's been a while since I've done a podcast. I've been super busy. I'm doing final exams to finish my master's degree. I'm going to be done in about 10 or 15 days. And if the gods of education accept me, then I will be conferred, given my master's degree, and I'll be accepted into the PhD program where I can begin to dream up my dissertation. And we also have some other classes that we'll be taking. So that's what I've been doing. I've been very focused. This is important. I don't want to drop the ball here, so I've had to really grind it out. It's just one of those times in life where you have to make sacrifices and focus. So that's what I've been doing. And I have some extra energy today, a little bit extra time, so I just wanted to do this short little podcast and talk a little bit about what's been going on and what's on my mind and what I call a soulful rambling, speaking from a place of meaning and transformation and seeing where it goes. One of the topics that I wanted to get out there is shame. Shame is a topic that I feel is really important to cover and is perhaps underrated as an important topic in psychology and publicly how we address growth, healing, and psychological wellness. And for me, shame has a way of cutting us down and taking a value away from our basic sense of belonging and place in the universe, our basic sense of connection. It's different than guilt in that guilt is they can both be conjured up by making mistakes or being reprimanded or criticizing something you might have done, but shame seems to go straight for the character. It goes straight for who I am as a person. It doesn't go for what I did. You made a mistake. You need to correct this. It goes for who I am at the core. And shame has a way of debilitating and going piercing straight into, do I even have value as a human being? And if we look at it from an evolutionary perspective, shame has a social role in the survival and the efficiency of the species, right? Because shame will create a feeling of wanting to avoid certain behaviors so that you can be accepted and cohesive with the group. So there's a way in which it has served a functional purpose because it allows. So I'll give you an example. In the Lip and Apache tribes, the Native American tribes who lived in Arizona and I believe Texas and Mexico, in these tribes, if you weren't aware of your surroundings, like if one of the elders came by and said, "Where's the closest coyote?" or "What's going around? What animals are around us right now?" you would get shunned by the whole tribe. They would just not talk to you for however many days, and that was supposed to send a message: hey, it's really not okay to not pay attention because that puts everybody at risk. If we're not paying attention, we could be raided, we could be killed. We could be raided by another tribe. We could be taken off guard by bad weather, whatever it would be. So paying attention was really important. So shame or shunning was used as a mechanism to incentivize attention. And so there's a functional circuitry, there's a functional neural circuitry for why we might have these feelings. But the problem with shame is a lot of times it overserves its function. And I would argue that for me, it's dysfunctional to feel shame most of the time. it's not serving me, because it's debilitating, right? It's not actually empowering me to look at how I can improve, or to celebrate my life, or to see how things are going well and where they could be going better, and look at things objectively. No, it's saying you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, right? And that's dysfunctional. That's not serving me, that's not serving anybody else. That's only creating self-destruction. And I think that for a lot of people, that is how shame is experienced. And so it's important to see that, yes, there's evolutionary reasons why we might feel these emotions, but that doesn't mean that they're serving us anymore. And you might argue that there are some situations where you feel it's functional for you, and that's fine. Becoming socialized as a child, and learning how to be a part of a social group and to perform acceptable, quote unquote, as society defines it, behavior. There's reasons for this kind of stuff. But when we're trying to grow into individuated and strong psychological individuals, we have to peel back those layers of shame and let go of those societal interjects, and let go of those self-judgments, and let go of that saboteur inside of us, that inner saboteur, which some of us have very strongly. Some of us have a very strong self-sabotaging part of us. And we have to let go of that and learn how to step into a greater vision of ourselves. And that actually frees us. It frees us to be more engaged with the world, to actually perform, to do what we're passionate about. Because if I'm in shame, if I'm stuck in shame, then I won't put myself out there, because I don't believe in my own worth. I don't believe in my own belonging. I don't feel like I can meet the world. I don't belong in the universe. That doesn't work. And so how do I let go of that? How do I get beyond that? Because this is something that I've been working with for a really long time, and I've been working with this with clients, and I've been seeing these dynamics. And it has to be repetitive mindfulness, constant vigilance. I have to catch myself when I'm in shame. Like, oh my God, I'm in shame. And I'll notice it like in professional emails or interactions, or anytime where there's a sense that I could be judged or evaluated or interpreted as something by somebody else, or maybe I make a mistake with my significant other, and or maybe I didn't make a mistake. Maybe I'm just shaming myself for no reason. But it's an opportunist. Shame is an opportunist. If we have a shaming proclivity, I'm not saying everybody has this, but a lot of people have a deep shamer, and you could call it a shaming subpersonality inside of themselves. It is a damn opportunist. It wants to find reasons to shame you. And it's not because of what you did. It's because at the core, it is that saboteur. It wants to take you out. It wants to debilitate you. So everything is grist for the mill of shame. Anything can be spun into this matrix of reasons to feel shame. And so it can be a mastermind. It can be a spider that weaves a complicated web to trap us. And it can use salient observations and false logic and false reasoning to try to trick our minds to stay stuck. So it can be a super harmful circuitry in our brains, in our bodies. And so to start letting go of it, what I work with on myself and with other people is seeing through it, call a spade a spade. That's the shamer. Name it. You got to name it to tame it. I don't remember who that comes from, but that's a good one. I think it's Daniel Siegel. Name it to tame it. If we don't have awareness, if we don't have a name for something, it just runs us, because we aren't mindful enough to see it as a emergent pattern that's coming up. Okay, so I say, okay, I call it my black hole. Okay, the black hole is here. You call it the shamer. You call it whatever you want. The shamer is here. I know the shamer is here. So what do I know about the shamer? Well, the shamer is going to find reasons to shame me. And it doesn't really matter if they're good reasons or if they're accurate. It just matters that he wants to shame me. Okay, well, I'm aware of that. So then I can actually see through it and be like, oh, I see. That's what's going on right now. So awareness is the first step. The second step is, what do I do with that awareness? Creative choice. Sometimes I'll do parts work where I'll have the lover in me be like, well, I believe in love and I believe in this life and I believe I belong here. And so everything you just said doesn't have any meaning to me. Or I'll focus on something else. Maybe I'll go for a run or I'll do a meditation. But I immediately have to shift myself out, stop it right away, because it's like a runaway train. If you don't stop the momentum of a specific neural circuit, of a specific pattern, then it will just continue to gain momentum and it can run the whole day or hours or for some people days. Some people get depressed from continually shaming themselves and they just stay in bed, right? So it's stop it right away, see through it, and then counter it with something. Like, don't just let it sit there and linger as this proposition that may or may not be true. It has to be encountered and it has to be dialogically and dialectically transcended. So that means I have to find it within myself to transcend the experience. And there's many creative ways to do that. And then I do it and I notice for myself when I focus that hard, it shifts. Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I ran into a shame bubble. The black hole was running his mouth. So first I looked at it and I said, and I went to that part of me, the lover in me, the logical analyzer, and I said, wow. I laughed at it because laughter helps a lot. Because even if you don't feel like laughing, you can fake it till you make it, because it brings a sense of clarity and lightheartedness to this very serious situation. I'm ashamed. Oh, am I good enough? I don't know if I can do this. And I just laughed. I said, this is such bullshit, And I saw through the shamer. And I thought to myself, wow. And I even spoke out loud to myself, like, I love living. I belong in this universe. I belong here. And the shamer thinks I don't belong. And that's not true. That's not how I feel as the lover. And so I counter it with another perspective. And then all of a sudden I feel different. It changes my experience. And sometimes you have to do that 8 times a day, 10 times a day, over and over again, because you're changing neural pathways that are automatic in your brain, that are going down this specific route. And so it takes repetition and training and mindfulness and focus. It's not easy, right? So I'm not naive, and I train people to think this way. Don't be naive. Remember, you're going to have to encounter this probably multiple times, maybe for a whole lifetime, and it'll gradually, incrementally get better. I'm going to check the YouTube live chat here. I've got a comment from Levi Plasma. Hey Levi, it's great to see it. You say, sup dude, it's been a while. I reckon high school bullying can play a part in this kind of thing. What you're saying is bang on. Right on, Levi. I'm really glad that you're here. It's great to hear from you. And absolutely, I mean, if we have feelings inside of us of any inadequacy, and then somebody picks on us or somebody gives us a reason to feel more inadequate, we're going to cling on to that, right? We're going to continue to proliferate those feelings because now the shamer has more data. See, this person doesn't think you're good enough. See, you fucked this up. See, this wasn't good enough. It just is going to try to get you in that cycle. And so what I truly believe is in getting beyond shame and getting into a place of connection and belonging and purpose, and not looking at myself as, am I valuable or not valuable, but just living with the assumption, yeah, I value myself, I value others, I value living. And so I also have humility. The humility is that I'm a person. I can learn, I can grow, I can change. I don't have to be stuck in a mindset of good or bad. I can just be a process. I'm an unfolding process. I'm not a good boy. I'm not a bad boy. I just am who I am. And so I transcend this introject that we get from society of good or bad, good boy, bad boy. And if I'm a good boy, then I get, a good pat on the head and I get good grades and I get celebrated. But if I'm a bad boy, I get punished, right? That's the training that we get from our society is good girl, good boy, bad boy. And so getting to a place of I am who I am, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm changing, I'm becoming, I am living by the values that I feel in my heart rather than by the values that are imposed on me from outside, then I become freer. Then I become what Nietzsche referred to as that lion, right? That lion that frees us to be the child. And I believe it was the 4 transformations of the spirit, where you have to become socialized, right? You have to learn how to be in society. That's what growing up is. For most of us, we become socialized. And in socialization, in Gestalt therapy, we get what's called introjects. So we might have a message inside of us from society or from parenting or from school that says boys don't cry, or it's not okay to be vulnerable, or certain values that are imposed upon us that lead us to certain coping styles. But then you get to this next stage where you have to throw off the societal introject. And that's part of throwing off the shame and becoming a lion, becoming an individual, ferociously and fiercely claiming yourself so that you can free yourself to be the child again. But not a naive child that has no capability of living in the adult world, but a child that's integrated into an adult body. So you're both the man and the child, the woman and the child. You integrate both of those sides of yourself. And you live freely from this authentic, open spirit of creativity and playfulness. And like Christ said, unless you become again like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. So you actually have to become again like a child, psychologically speaking, rather than religiously, to enter into the kingdom of your own psychological peace, of your own meaning, of your own purpose. But if the child is shackled by shame and ridden with a sense of self-doubt, guess what? You're not going to get to that level of freedom inside of your psyche. You're going to be constantly dealing with that shamer. And again, I want to emphasize here, this is not a message that I'm claiming as a universal. I'm not saying everybody has the same extent of shaming. And at the same time, a lot of us, I think this is a really important message because a lot of people do. A lot of people I know deal with heavy shame. And you're not alone. That's the other thing to realize. Like, you're not the only one who's beating the crap out of yourself all the time. And it's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay. It's not all right, right? We have to set a boundary with ourselves. Just like if a friend was beating up, if somebody was beating up on one of your friends, would that be okay? If somebody was just saying, well, you're a piece of shit, you don't have any value. If somebody said that to one of your friends who you value, right, you would be like, not cool. So it's kind of like that, one of those things where it's like, well, I wouldn't treat other people that way. I wouldn't want to see other people treated that way that I love. So why would I treat myself that way? Don't I deserve the same basic dignity and respect? So name it to tame it. Name the shamer. Understand what it's doing. It's okay to laugh at it. It's okay to fake it till you make it, even if it doesn't feel funny, if it feels really serious. And it's okay to try some different stuff on. Try some different options. See how you can transcend that. And I have a lot of different tools for that. That if you have any questions, you can leave a comment. Send me an email at holsappler32@gmail.com. And we can talk about it. We can talk about different strategies. I mean, I really think there's a lot of different ways to move through it. But it's all about rewiring the brain, creating new neural pathways. And these new neural pathways are going to be the way out into a new state of being. And it also takes imagination, right? Because we only usually imagine ourselves when we're in the shame cycle in a very limited way. So you have to be able to imagine yourself in a different way. Wow, like, what if this isn't really true for me? What if I really loved being alive and I felt like I belonged here and even loved myself? What would that mean? What would that look like? And then I've just noticed that the more I do that for myself and the more that other people do that, the more that they feel like they can interact with the world in a free way. So in other words, you might find yourself being more successful at work or having more opportunities because all of a sudden you're not holding yourself back out of self-doubt or low self-worth or whatever you call it. You actually feel a sense of, I'm okay no matter what happens. Good transaction, bad transaction, good day, bad day, good round of golf, bad round of golf. Doesn't fucking matter because I am okay. I'm not defined by every little outcome in my life. My value isn't dependent on my performance. And I think that's a huge Western post-industrial conditioning that we have. My value depends on how I achieve, how I perform, right? I think this is a double-edged sword. On one hand, of course it's okay to feel good about performance. Of course it's okay to get out there and get after it, accomplish your goals, create a sense of achievement, and that feels good, and I encourage that. And at the same time, those are externals. Where the true value is in the mind. Because that's where we really live our life. So I'll tell you a quick story to illustrate that. This is an old one that everybody's probably heard. So there was a Native American guy on a reservation, near a reservation in Arizona, and he was just sitting on the wall of a gas station. He was just hanging out. He's loitering, just hanging. So this guy comes up to him and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm just hanging out." He said, "Well, why don't you go to college?" And he says, "Well, why would I do that?" And he said, "Well, then you can finish college and get a job." "Well, why would I do that?" And he said, "Well, then you can get a job and you can work your way up to the top and make more money." He said, "Well, why would I do that?" And he said, "Well, then you have a family and kids and a house and a car. Why would I do that?" Well, after that, you can keep working your way up and maybe you'll become the CEO. "Well, why would I do that?" "Well, then you could do whatever you want." And the guy looks at him and says, "I'm doing that right now." So the point of the story isn't that it's good to be a successful businessman and it's bad to loiter, or that it's good to loiter and it's bad to be a successful businessman. The point is that how you define your life is more important than what you do and how you perform. Who you are is more important than what you're doing. The quality of your being is what gives birth to your actions. So I personally, it's authentic to me to achieve. That's why I'm finishing this master's degree. That's why I'm building my business. That's why I'm working with clients. But it's not this sense of like artificial achievement, like I'm achieving for the sake of some pat on the back or dollar signs only. Not that money's not a motivator in life, but it's a sense of meaning. This is meaningful to me. This is authentic to who I am. This is what I want to do. Not because I should, not because I'm a good boy or a bad boy, but because I want to, because it's authentic. And I think in our Western civilization, we have a lot to learn about that. Because we are so caught up in these paradigms of performance, in these paradigms of value, in these paradigms of guilt and shame. And this is what's true for me. This is what I'm learning. This is what I'm working on. And I'm noticing it to be an incredibly freeing way to live my life. And it's not actually even affecting, it's not negatively affecting my performance. It's actually boosting it, ironically. But I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it because it's authentic, because it's about my soul. It's about who I am as an individual. And that's what it's all about. I think I'm going to rename this shame or something. Dealing with shame. I don't know. And then I'm going to post it on Podbean or iTunes, Spotify. I'll post it on all my podcasting platforms, TuneIn Radio. And I think it'll be just a good one for people to hear, just to, if they have that shaming part of themselves. So I'm going to leave this up. You know, they say you can only go as far with someone else as you've gone with yourself. So I can only guide other people as far as I've been willing to go. So I have to do this work so that I can help the next person do it for themselves. So it's bigger than me. Obviously, it's me. It's about healing for myself, but it's also like, wow, I get to go through this process of transformation in my psyche, and then because I learn and I have a map of the territory of this shame process, then the next person who's dealing with shame, I get to say, hey, I've been there. Here's what I learned. And let's see what works for you. Let's see what's true for you. This is what's true for me. Let's see what's true for you. And that's the nature of transformational companionship, right? It's not that one person is better than the other, but it's as my mentor Strachan says, Roger, we're both pilgrims on the same path. I'm just a little further ahead of you. It's power with instead of power over. Daniel, thank you. I'm glad you're liking it. Levi, I'm looking at the chat on YouTube here for people who are just listening. Thank you for listening. Adela, darling, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your being here and letting me ramble. If you haven't already, hit the like button and the subscribe button, because YouTube is an algorithmic system that will help us reach more people if it notices that people are hitting those buttons. And also, if you're listening on audio only on a podcast, then you can do things like rate, review, follow, stuff like that. So that's what you can do to support the podcast right now. And I am wishing you all a wonderful day. I got to get back to work and run some errands here in a bit. And I'm sending you love. Lots of love. Living from a place of love and belonging. Yes. It's amazing. You're all amazing.